All right, here we go. Hey, Tom here, Flip Anything USA. So I haven't been live here in a while because it's been very busy. It's also been very hot in Texas, but I've had a lot of renewals, a lot of things going on. And but today we got live call in, and we're going to talk about eminent domain. And let me tell you, I've been through a pretty rough eminent domain case. It was actually a long time ago. Uh, I just I pretty much was just coming to where I'd made quite a bit of money in real estate. I was in my late 20s, about 27, I don't know, something like that. But I used to own the property that's underneath this overpass, right about where my arrow is there. In fact, I'll show you. I'll show you a thing. Anyways, let me tell you, this was a real cluster. It was a real tough one. So my property is what you see right here. And the overpass was going over my property. I'll show you kind of how it was. From a bird's eye look, this is what my lots look like this. That's a little wider. It looked like this. I had one lot here, like that, and then the other one like this. You can see it's underneath the overpass. I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see that. So this eminent domain, it's a real tough one, let me tell you, because you're fighting the city, and they don't care. In other words, they don't care what they spend on lawyers. They want to pay you as little as possible, and sometimes they're in conjunction with developers taking your property too. And the deal is they had been developing this stuff here, and it's funny because this has hardly even developed over the 30 years since I got in this fight. It's been almost 30 years ago. I think it was 1989. Now, there's a good part of this story. I made a lot of money from this deal, and part of it was because I could kind of see what was coming, and I'm going to explain that to you. So I'm going to pull up here for a second and show you. First of all, take a look at here. Here's the overpass, right? Big overpass, and what it did is it went over a freeway. So give me just, I'm going to take just a second here, and I'm going to tell you all about it. I'm going to tell you the money that I made on this property, but I'm also going to tell you, most importantly, if you're ever fighting eminent domain, how to go about it, what to do, the things you should and shouldn't do. I learned a hard lesson. I did make 5 times my investment on this deal, and it was a fun one and it was a good one, but it could have been better. But I learned a lot about attorneys, and they're people. They're not very good, all of them. And I'm not talking about the person. I'm talking about their capacity to litigate. You really got to be careful. But it was a good lesson, and I'm going to share that with you. Let's see, and you'll be right with you. You want to learn how to make millions of dollars in real estate? I've made tens of millions over my lifetime, and I'm showing people how to do it. Get in my free webinar. I have it every Thursday, 7 p.m. Central. Go to the link below, FlipAnythingUSA.com/webinar. Sign up for it. You can talk to me face-to-face if you want. Don't waste any time. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. You don't want to miss my channel. I've been doing it for years. All right. So, first of all, eminent domain. If you're new to eminent domain, basically, it's the right of the government to take your property if it's for the public good. And I have a number of properties that are kind of affected that one way or another. I've got properties that have been, they've widened intersections, and the argument, of course, is for safety. And see, what they were doing here is they wanted to cross this highway. It was a dead end here. You couldn't go through it. In fact, if you look closely, look, railroad tracks. So this is crossing over railroad tracks and a 7-8 lane highway. It was called Sierra Highway. And what they were doing is it was called the peripheral loop. So, maybe I'll go to the whiteboard here and show this to you. And also, okay, I got a caller here. Caller, go ahead.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Hey, very good. Is this Russ?
Yeah, this is Russ. I see you're talking about eminent domain. Just wanted to get a little more information. what do you do with a city that, you know, typically they're supposed to pay you market value, right, for your land if they're going to take it away?
They are.
I had an instance where I only got paid $1, and the city was all like, "Hey, either take this $1, or we're not going to let you, partition this property." So, I mean, what do you do in cases like that? Do you just go with the flow and just let them pay you $1, take a big chunk of your land away, and then you can move forward with your project, or do you fight them in court with?
Well, here's a couple things. First of all, they're in a position that sometimes they can give you something. In other words, let's say that they need to take some of your property away, but you want them to allow you a stronger, better commercial zoning, or you want it. In other words, they'll give you the zoning that you want sometimes in exchange for taking the land. You can get something out of it. So in my situation, what they did was, and I'll explain this to the watchers watching, is they were trying to take my property. And, they take it. And bottom line is they take it. The good thing is a lot of people don't realize they take it and they say, hey, this is what we think it's worth. You can haggle a little bit. But in the end, if they don't agree with it, they have to give you the money. So in this case, they're telling me it's worth $110. They were giving me about $1.75 a foot. And across the street, this stuff was going for $6 a foot. It was just prime property. You can see, look at the beautiful industrial buildings that are in here. And I'm like, nah, that ain't gonna fly. I want the same money as across the street that these guys were selling for. And they were doing a big economic development thing. SBA money was funding people's buildings and all sorts of stuff. But what in my case, and then I'll come back to yours, Russ, but they were doing a thing called the peripheral loop. So the idea for the peripheral loop is to go around the periphery of the city. So if you look big enough picture here, you'll see that I have an overpass here, right here, the one that we were just talking about right there. And then you're going to see a twin overpass right here, identical to it. See it? They're like perfectly identical. This one is a little bit more out of the city, but the idea is that you could kind of come in without having to go through the city and kind of get out. If you did, you could just go straight through from here and catch this freeway, right? And same thing over here. It just kind of gives you a quicker route to the freeway if you're coming from the east side in this case, or just basically, just like it says, it's a peripheral loop. It's a way to take you around. So I of course, was not happy, and I was like 28 years old at the time. It's like 19. Yeah, it was right around 1989. I bought the property earlier, and the big beef was this. On mine, they weren't giving me enough money per foot. My lot was like right here. I'll show it to you. My lot was like this. So they needed my lot because they had to go right over the top of it. And then I owned the adjoining lot. I sold this lot to the neighbor later on. But they only wanted to pay for the one, and I wanted them to pay for both, and I wanted them to pay me 2 or 3 times as much for it. And that's where the disagreement began. Well, they said, tough, this ain't going to happen. And, like a lot of city governments, it's made up of failed businessmen. The city council is largely failed business and people that have gone bankrupt. And that's almost in every city, by the way. But that's just how it goes. But in this case, my problem was with the city manager. City manager was a real jerk. And I actually had one of the councilmen that went to bat for me pretty well. And I appreciate him. His name was Arnie Rodeo. He's passed away since. But anyways, back to fighting them. You don't have to take the money, but one of the things you want to do if you're in an eminent domain case is you want to be the last person to settle, because you got to remember, if there's 10 people they're bargaining with, and they give the top dollar to the first person, then everybody thereafter is going to want the same or more. So you let them do their work, and they go around and they make the best deals they can with everybody. And then the last ones, the ones at the end that wait the longest, they get a point to everything that's been, because it's all public information. They get a point to everything that's happened before then. And so it puts you in a better position to get more money. But also, you can kind of hold out for more money because they can give it to you, and it doesn't strain them as much because they've already settled up with everybody else. And hey, also in the class rest, we got Chris Parker. Chris said he's flipping while he listens. Gemini, that's great to see in here, Gemini. Tom has so many stories to tell. Oh, yeah. You probably know some of this. Thanks, so I appreciate the good words, Chris. But this was an interesting one, and I learned a lot about lawyers, and I learned, obviously, about eminent domain. And so go ahead, Russ. What were you saying? What was your issue, or what are you talking about earlier?
Yeah, I was talking about when the city doesn't pay you a fair amount. Like in my case, it was $1, and this was granted like I don't know 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago. So I didn't really want to mess around with suing them. I just wanted to finish this project up. I was so close to partitioning this lot, get a building and sell them off and make money. But I felt they were supposed to give me at least $50,000 minimum, for that sliver of land. But they gave me $1.
Well, they probably felt like they were giving you something in exchange for it, and I don't know. The bottom line is you didn't have to take $1. You can fight it, but of course, if all you do is you get $1, and see, my deal is I wasn't happy with $100,000. They gave me $100,000, and they had to. I said, "Well, release the money to me," because they've already taken it. They've taken the property. The money goes in escrow. You have the right to take it out. It doesn't mean you accepted it. You take it out. They took your land. You can take their money. You can go back and fight for more. So that's what I did. I hired one lawyer. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. Hired another one. And he wasn't much better, and I'll tell you, it's so frustrating. I went to court in L.A. County and picked a jury, and I had just moved to Texas at that time, and I picked a jury, and then they decide, okay, we're going to start in like a week, and then the judge decided to go on vacation, and that would push things further away, but then they decided we need to pick a new jury. So I had to go back, and I'm flying from Texas, and I got to go through that whole process of picking a jury again with another lawyer. And, so they wear you out financially, or especially if you're, if you're far away. In this case, I was. And so it wears you down. But on your deal there with the property, you can ask for favors that they can give you easily. They can give you a variance. Maybe they let you build more square footage or bigger or closer to the property line. You can ask for things like that. It's easy for them to kind of allow stuff like that. It's the money they don't want to part with, because whatever they give to you, they're going to have to give the same or more to somebody else. The other thing is when it comes to the coming to a value, you'll if you're going to go to court, you're going to have to hire a forensic appraiser. You're going to have to use somebody really good, just the best credentials. And so, of course, I went out and I got the best forensic appraiser out there, and even she blew it. She made a mistake. What she did, and was a pro. I mean, she really was a sharp person, and she disliked my lawyer, and she had every right to. And she was upset because he really didn't know. And I found it when I got in court. I remember I got in court and he was lost. He didn't know who went first. And I thought, how many cases like this have you done? He said, well, you're my first eminent domain. But you got to remember, I was young. I hadn't really dealt with attorneys too much. I'd actually been sued for lifetime disability over somebody cutting off their finger once. But other than that, this is the first that I had to deal with this. And I didn't even need a lawyer for the other. That was workman's comp. But so what happened was we ended up going to court. And I felt a little bit weakened because I know I had a terrible lawyer. But in the end, what happened was I probably should have pushed it through. I ended up getting more than double what they'd offered me, but not quite as much as I should have got. I should have got the same as what these guys were getting. But I'll tell you, it really shakes your confidence when you find out that your lawyer is kind of incapable. And one of the things you got to do is you got to look at their appraisal. So let me tell you something. One of the things that I did that really, really was worth. I studied the appraisal of of my opposition. And when you have your opposition, it's good if you can really show them if they make a stupid mistake. So I'm pouring through the appraisal, and what they did is they described this road. There's a road in front of me right here. This was dirt. It still is mostly dirt. But in the description that their appraisal wrote, he wrote that this was a paved road. And so I showed that to my attorney. I said, listen, this guy's lazy. I said, I don't even think this guy's been out to the property. And so we made him look foolish because when we said, could you point to the paved road that you described here? And he went up there and he's like, And then we went on about how this guy has changed his office location like 4 times in 2 years, which really makes him look like an unstable business. So where we were going with this is that this was a reckless, unprofessional appraiser that did not, that he just, rubber stamps whatever's in front of him. And, so anyway, so that worked for us. And again, I ended up settling the thing. In fact, in the end, I owed, I felt my attorney had let me down terribly. Also, the appraiser, what she did, she made a big mistake. She brought her exhibits, and I can't remember exactly, but the exhibits weren't properly marked. And once you submit the exhibits, you can't touch them again. They're like untouchable after you put them in, and so that kind of put us at a disadvantage. And then, of course, my dopey attorney was asking. He was starstruck. She had done appraisals for all the big movie stars and the huge mansions, and he's saying, and you've been doing this for a long time. And he's kind of trying to build her credibility. And he goes, and he starts talking about, and who's the guy that did the big 90210? Do you remember 902? I don't know. Anyways, a huge. Yeah, a big time Hollywood producer, and she names him, and he's naming him. My apprentice, and you did it for whatever, Alec Baldwin, and you did for this person and this person, but he kept going on so much about the Hollywood names that it looked kind of stupid. You know what I mean? It just was losing credibility, and so finally he stopped, and then she gets in, and like I said, in the end, I made a lot of money, and I learned a lot about attorneys. And he had blown it so bad that in the end, I wrote a check to him and the appraiser for much less than I owed them both. And I said, here, I said, I wrote it to both of you. I said, you can split it. I said, you both blew it. You both, didn't do your jobs. And you take it or leave it, because I was ready. I mean, I was really upset, but I gave them something, about a third of what they had billed me for, and I just gave the check wrote it to both of them, and they went down. I wrote it to one, and neither one could cash it without the other, and they ended up going down to the bank and having the bank cash it, and they each took their half. But again, in all honesty, he was a nice guy, but he was just too green to be doing my work, and I was too green to know any better at the time. But I can show you. I'll show you. I got a couple properties. I have
that property, Tom. The one, sorry for interrupting you. The one that they took by eminent domain. Did you at least get your money's worth? What you paid for it?
Oh yeah, I got more than that. I bought this property from a little old lady named Lillian Kalari, and I knew the peripheral loop. I could see that it was coming. I paid $64,000 for the property. It had 2 little houses on it, and I rented them out. Only one of them was worth renting, and so in the end, what I paid $64,000 for, I sold for $290. I got $190 for the one I made the city pay for, and then I think I got $150 or $100 for the other one. Maybe I got almost $350 for it. I can't remember quite now, but I know it was at least. I remember $190 and $100 pretty well, but I may be thinking about the original first offer of $100 that I made them pay more later on. But in the end, I prevailed. And this is back in 1989, I mean, it was probably 90 now, actually, but I bought the property when I was 25 years old in like 1987. And we settled up and had this fight like in 1990, something like that. But so, yeah. So, in the end, it was fine. Yeah, but if that same thing happened today, I would have made more money. I would have hired a better attorney. But I think I did a good job actually just reflecting back on it, catching the mistakes of the other appraisers. Never expect when you have an attorney or anybody you hire to do anything, you got to watch them. They're people, they make mistakes. They're lazy, they have problems. Everybody, I'm not talking about just attorneys, but they make mistakes. Everybody can. And, just because you're paying, $500 an hour, back then probably it was $150 an hour, now it's $800 an hour, $1,000 an hour, depending on what kind of attorney you have. And they can make mistakes, and you can't just take it for granted that the money you're spending, that everything's going to be perfect. It's not that way. So nobody cares like you do. So, we got Barry in here. Red Raider, you're the man. Thanks. Red Raider. Barry wrote, Edmund, I also have money in Fundrise. Oh, you're talking about another subject altogether. Okay, all right. Yeah, we got a whole different topic going on in there. I hope I'm not boring you guys, but I understand if it's not your topic. But if it is your topic, hey, by the way, if you just got here, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It helps the channel a lot. If you could do that, I would appreciate it. It helps the channel, whether you like it or subscribe it. It's helpful.
It's not boring at all, Tom. I mean, I found it fascinating how you were able to take a problem, work through it. You got people, like attorneys and appraisals involved. So,
yeah.
Maybe that's what I should have done. But hopefully I don't ever have to do it again. But now, I know how to do it.
Well,
more tools in my belt.
So look, let's go. I'll show you another property in a completely different state here. So I got another one. And again, this is one, there was some really, really tough hardships happened in the family, so I was kind of sidelined in a very, very big way. There was a death of, my daughter's boyfriend, and it was a tough time, and I was in the middle of this thing. But this is a property that they needed to take a piece of this intersection right here, and in the middle of this, I was going for a rezone, and I was asking for the moon and what I could do for zone, like the highest density commercial and the most flexible thing you could do. And they allowed me that, but they could have given me a little bit more. But in the bottom, but then this tragedy happened, and I had a facilitator, Shaw Hamilton. He's actually long dead now, but nice guy. But I just kind of said, you know what, Shaw, just do the best you can. And, so I kind of let somebody else handle it. It didn't get handled the way I would have liked it to be done exactly. But I should have just, in that case, what I should have done, being there was just so much grief in the family at the time, I should have just shut it down, just backed off and handled it another day. I really wasn't under. And by the way, to this point, everybody listening, sometimes you get a property that's unzoned. You have zoning, and then sometimes you can have unzoned, where you actually have a property that's unzoned. A lot of times it falls into like a school property in this case. Unzoned is a fantastic thing because you can do anything because it's not zoned. So that's something everybody to keep in mind if you ever run into that. And you may never run into that, by the way. But if you do, being unzoned is good. It means there's nothing you can't do. So anyways, hey, Russ, you want to look at that property you were talking about? If you want, we can jump over to it. If you want to, otherwise.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I already sold both of them off, but we can see what I was working with. So the address is 819
Okay.
Southwest Florence Place, FLORENCE, and that's Florence Place.
Okay.
And Gresham, Oregon.
Southwest.
GRESH.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Southwest, and then what was that other word?
Florence, FLORENCE.
Florence.
Yeah, Florence
Oh, F.
Place.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, F like Frank. FLORENCE.
Oh, Gresham, Oregon. All
Yep.
right.
So I bought the lot, and then I split it down the middle, and it's a cul-de-sac lot. It was neighboring another cul-de-sac, and the city said they needed to do like a walkway connecting the two neighborhoods together via the two cul-de-sacs.
I see it.
Yeah, so that's when they
you're talking about
charged
this
me.
little dirt path, correct?
Yeah, that's the one. It used to be part of my property. Yes, they paid me $1 for it.
And
But they're like, hey, either give that to us or we're not going to let you, petition it. And I built those two homes right there.
okay, and so the petition, you do we have a flag lot situation here? What do we got here? Or is it just
No,
there's two
no
side by
lots.
side?
It's just down the middle.
Okay.
They're exactly identical. They're just mirror. I mirrored the homes.
I see. You got two reverse layouts of the same. Yeah,
exactly.
I got you. Well, see, they gave you something. You know what I mean? And so I wouldn't feel terrible about that. It's more devastating if they take 10 feet off a couple 100 foot of frontage of something that you could otherwise would increase your signage, your building. But you got to remember when they...
That's going on with my buddy right now. His property, they're doing they're widening the road. They're adding a middle lane.
Right.
And they're taking about 500 feet of 20 feet of his property. So roughly about half an acre or more. And they're only paying them $7,000 for it, for half an acre, roughly.
That's not enough. It doesn't sound really good. Nearly right.
Nowhere near as good. But they're like, hey, it's a safety improvement, and he doesn't really want to fight it in court, so he just settled. If it was me, I would be fighting that one.
Yeah, I would too.
But yeah, so I told them they should at least give you, the $150,000 at least for half an acre.
Right.
But they took that $7,000.
So, talking about this property that I got, and I got another one that I'm also have. I just got calls from attorneys looking to they call it condemnation, by the way. Condemnation is another term for it, but. Sometimes they widen the road, it doubles the traffic in front of your property. And that's not a bad thing. All of a sudden you're on the map. I'll give you an example. This is a good one too, because you see if you can't see this, I don't know if you're watching out, Russ, but I've got a freeway in front of me here. Those of you watching out in YouTube land. And then that goes through, and then look at another freeway here, right? Well, this didn't used to be connected. This used to be cut off here at dead end. And then it was probably by eminent domain that they took this and they connected these two. And so I've got two freeways that are connected by a major artery, and it became a much, much more major artery after I bought it. And likewise, there's other things that can affect you, just so you know, watching. This is kind of an eminent domain taking without being an eminent domain taking. I own this commercial strip center you see here in front of me. And what they did is they put in strip curbs here, and they removed street parking. So they removed the street parking, so now I could no longer park. There's 50 to 100 cars that can park on this street that can no longer park there. And, and I have a rockin' bar in this place and a busy restaurant. And so I was damaged when they took that away. And I may have to revisit this another way because, when you have cars that can park straight in, and now they can't. And a lot of times you'll see city entities, they love bikes and bike lanes and all this stuff, and nothing against you bikers out there at all. But sometimes they'll narrow. They'll take a 5-lane road with a center lane that you can turn, and they turn it into a 2-lane road with the center lane. So 3 lanes. It destroys the access for the cars, And or if you take 4 lanes and turn it into 2. And you're trying to pull out to the left or right, and there's tons of cars coming, in the morning traffic going to work and on the way coming back home, you're sitting there stuck. You can't pull out, and they'll choose. They'll put a bike path there. making that more important than the access to the cars. And the car, the 30,000 cars and maybe 20 bicycles. It's Barry wrote Bike Lives Matter. That's pretty funny. Yeah. I can tell you, I've been in meetings and I had a guy and he was a shill for the city. And listen, you got to be careful when you go to fight this kind of stuff. If you're going to fight with a city entity, let me tell you, they're among the dirtiest way when they want to do something. So I'll give you an example. Let's say they wanted to eliminate the bike lane on this property that you see in front of me. Well, they have a duty to contact X amount of people in a say a large circumference. So, and this is just an example, but let's say the circumference is like this. They make it a very big circle. And then what they do is they hit their number, not by contacting the people on the road and the businesses and the people that are most affected by shoving a bike lane down your throat. No, what they do is they hit their number by contacting the people on the very outskirts, the ones that don't care, that are least affected. And then they would say, well, check, we contacted, 200 people. And then they contact those people to go to a meeting, and then they don't contact everybody else on the street that's most affected. And then this way, when they get in there, the people, there's no opposition. And I got wind of it. It was kind of funny how I got wind of it, because I fought a lot of, homeowners associations. I've had some wars in the past with some of those folks. And so what I did was, when I got wind of it, I said, oh, this is great, because, homeowner associations full of busybodies and people that just love to bitch. And so I took that information and I sent it to every busybody I knew in the area. And the library where they were calling the meetings all of a sudden was just packed. And but it's a bit of a scam. You have to see it. It's a bit of a scam when you see it. And a lot of times what they'll also do, this last time I noticed this, something observation, they come down there and instead of putting a camera to record everybody that's bitching or in agreement, whatever, they have an audio. They have a recorder, a microphone, recording the room. So you can't see the numbers of pissed off people. You just simply have the microphone. And then when you got the guys that are the most angry and pissed off, like me, that are near the front, they're trying to ignore you, the ones that have the most at stake. And they're like, a little old lady in the back, did you have a question? And she doesn't even have her hand up. And then of course she's like, oh, well, I just came here to see what's going on. Oh, in other words, they kind of filibuster the time away. And in order to run the clock out to say we had an hour meeting and nobody said anything bad. Of course, then you got to be pushy, and I am. And so when I'm in a meeting, and I just jump in and start asking my question, and I'll cut off, because you get some shill in the audience that says, well, I'd like to ride a bicycle with my son on this street sometimes. I think it's good exercise, and I can even ride to work. And I said, and actually got a pretty good laugh out of the crowd. I said, where do you ride a bike to? Where do you go to work where you don't end up smelling like a pig when you get there? Because we're in Texas. Well, it's hotter than hell here. And you can't go anywhere without sweating up a storm, and especially on a bicycle. And so the idea that you're going to go to work, and you can just imagine, you smell like, as rank as a terrible shoe by the time you get there. And it was a lie. It was a lie. It was a setup. And so it's political, and that's what they do. And you got to play the game. And the way you play the game is and I'm pissing off people on both sides of this thing, because they think I'm not waiting my turn for a question. I'm jumping in and I'm asking the hardest, toughest question that they don't want to answer. And really, that's sometimes what you got to do. So, hey, any questions out there watching? We got Jerry Mills. We got a lot of people from the folks in here, from the class here too, by the way, Russ. Anything else, Russ, you got on your mind you can think of?
No, I would just comment. You see a waste of, government or city money or taxpayer money. Like, they add in the bike lanes, they take a 4-lane road, they cut it down to a 2-lane road, And then 7 years later, they bust it out, they widen it, then they, add plants to it. One example I could think of, the county built a brand new jail, to house inmates. I don't know how much money they spent. They're like north of $70 million. And then all of a sudden they realize, oh, we don't have the money, the budget to run this jail. So they sell it off pennies on a dollar to this investor. He turns around, turns it into like a rehab facility, and the county is paying, to house these, homeless folks at the jail cell. I don't know if that's pure, corruption, or it's mind-boggling on the waste of, taxpayer money.
Yeah, it is. There's corruption all throughout. It's just inevitable. There's a way to fight it, and the public is the way you do it. And that's in my situation. The way I got rid of them, trying to, I called it the squeeze. I called it the squeeze because they were squeezing it from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, and it doesn't take. You get a lot of people riled up, and they go away. They start looking for a different route. It's just kind of easier for them to mess with it. But let's see, you just reminded me of something too. What did you just say? Oh yeah. Just, I've seen in Los Angeles, on, God, what is it, it's near LAX. They're taking a road that is just they could double the road for the traffic that's there, and they're actually taking away from the road in order to put in bicycles. Now, you could make the argument that the weather is nicer and cooler there, and it is easier to ride a bike most of the year around. But many states, it's just absolutely impossible, whether for heat or snow. Brizzle, I'm in Texas. Red Raider wrote, when I worked partial at, let's see, when I worked patrol, let me grab my glasses here. Red Raider wrote, when I worked patrol at my PD, I would only ever see meth heads, riding bikes in the heat. Yeah, I'm sure that's true. It's never about common sense, and it's just, it's about being connected, and sometimes you got to play the game, and connect yourself, and that can mean, donating to your city council, and being a little bit in touch. And by the way, you send the city council, $200-300, and you're like a rock star. They don't get that. They get a lot of $25 donations. You can. If you've got something you really, really want and push for, there's people that, all my kids donated too. They'll send several $1,000s. But it's just part of the game. And I'm not saying anything about that in my particular town. But anyways, but yeah. So. If you get an eminent domain suit, listen, number one, just be the last person to settle, and see what you can ask for. If you want a lot of property, maybe they can do something for you on another property. You know what I mean? In other words, they can buy you off another way than maybe specific to that property, because what they want to do is they want to buy your property as cheap as possible, so they can pay everybody after that as little as possible. And you got to remember, threatening litigation to City Hall is a joke. The person you're arguing with, if you engage in a fight and you're probably doing them a favor, because the lawyers that they keep on retention, will probably wine and dine these guys for the next 2 years just for you having a lawsuit. They make money. That's how they make money. Yeah, I agree, Brad. It's a stinky mess over there. And by the way, this property behind me is in L.A. County. That was L.A. County. So let's see, what else? Anyways, so hey, we're going to start doing more lives here at, I'm going to shoot for 10 a.m. What's that make it for you, Russ? Probably 8 o'clock where you're at. Anybody watching?
It's about 8 o'clock.
Yeah, so right now it's 1:43 where I'm at. Those of you watching, is there a better time you'd rather see it? Is 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. for you? What's the ideal time for somebody watching?
I like it ideally towards the evening, my time roughly, 8 o'clock or so. Usually the phone's not ringing off the hook.
Yeah,
In the mornings, usually it's like go, go, go.
right. Well, you can tell you're a dad because by 8, most of the kids are in bed. I assume the little ones, right? Yeah. So everybody's got it's like, oh, do it at 5 after. No, do it at 7 after happy hour. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think during the day is probably the best time for me for my own reasons. But I actually enjoy doing this stuff at night, and I think do people have more? Are you more likely to be in a broadcast like this at night or during the day? Do you think? And I'm asking Russ, but I'm also asking everybody watching. Would you rather this be at 6 p.m. Or would you rather it be noon? And I know we got Robert. Robert's over in Portugal. I don't even know what time it is in Portugal, but Brad
So
wrote.
anything after like 6 p.m. is good for me.
Yeah. So Brad, you wrote, is the best way to learn from me joining the mentorship? Well, certainly. I tell you everything I know and do everything I possibly can to help you in the mentorship, and and like I say, everybody has access to me. A lot of people profess to be mentors, but they really don't know anything, and that's why they have their students teaching other students. And in my class, that's actually very possible because really students have become so bright and getting great experiences, and like Russ here's no slouch even before he came in the class, and Russ has already made over $1 million, and I could say over 2 million, but I'm not going to oversell it. But he has. But
Man, I would get into Tom's class, guys, if I were you. Like Tom was saying, I was doing stuff before I got in his class, but he takes it to a whole nother level, especially if you want to get into commercial. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff where you could eventually make it your own way, but it'll be like kind of like walking in the dark. You could do a lot of mistakes, or you can have Tom, shine like a huge spotlight and show you exactly where to go. It makes it, you can sprint instead of crawling on all fours.
Yeah, thanks.
So,
And it's a great
Tom's
compliment.
definitely helped me.
Yeah. So like when I got guys like Russ, guys that have already, professional. He's a young professional, but he's been very successful. And then I got guys that have been doing it for 30 years. And Russ is 30 years old and been doing it for 10. But, it's like me. He did it assertive. He's been very aggressive and done well. But if I tell anybody, even if you've been in real estate 30, 40 years, I guarantee you'll learn a lot from me. I have been obsessed and working hard and very aggressive, assertive, and I bought a lot of property, hundreds, over the last 40 years. And of quality, of profitable, money-making properties. A lot of people talk in terms of doing deals, but they never specific. It's because they didn't make any money. So anyways, yeah, thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. So, hey, I guess we'll probably wrap it up here. But, hey, thanks for coming in, and I appreciate it. And, Russ, it's always a pleasure talking to you. And we'll try to do more of these during the day. We'll do another one tomorrow for sure. And please, everybody that's in here, let's just plan on coming back in here tomorrow. I'm going to try to do one around 10 or 11 tomorrow. So, and we'll iron down, we'll nail it down to the best times. So, all right. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you. Take care. And we'll fix this stuff too. Oh, yeah.